We're back for another episode of The Hangout. I'm your host, Tom George. I really like these, the fortnightly releases. It's making me feel more relaxed and more calm, and like I'm not just throwing episodes out at the moment, which feels better. I've got episodes to go through, but I don't just want to get them out to get them out. I want them to be, heard, and I want you to hear the guests that come on and the stories that they share. And there's been some great ones. And if you haven't listened to them, go back and listen. The ones that you don't know are maybe the ones that you attach to or resonate with the most. But this one's going to be no different. Coach Mariah and I sat down last year, and she gave me these incredible insights, the simplicity of coaching, and just put it in such a digestible form for me, where I feel like, and you'll hear about it in the episode, I've really struggled with consistency in my training and just took climbing as my training would just go climb, and never really had a consistent hangboard protocol or anything, never really consistent strength and conditioning. So Mariah answered those questions in a way that I enjoyed, so I took her on as a coach. So she's been coaching me now for the past 3 months, I believe, and I'm feeling my strongest, fittest, most confident, best climber that I've been in the 7 years of climbing that I've been climbing. And it's with her guidance, and it's with her protocols, and just her being that person in my corner, egging me on, and having an accountability partner, I think, is so, so important. And it's built consistency. And my project is so close right now. I've got it in one hang. I've got high points on it. And I think it's going to go. So that's exciting. Hopefully maybe this weekend if we can get out. If this is out on Sunday, maybe I've already sent it. Clap for me. That'd be cool. But we'll see what the weather does over this Easter weekend and see if I can get out to the balcony. But back to the episode. Coach Mariah, she has 10 plus years of coaching. She's been in the climbing world for so many years. She's just a wealth of knowledge, and she speaks about it in a way that's so understandable and simple and easy. And that's why I've been really enjoying being coached by her. I'm going to have all of her details in the show notes, so please check them out, check her out. And if you're looking for someone to make you a stronger, better, more confident climber, then Coach Mariah might just be for you. Without further ado, that rhymes, please enjoy episode 11 of The Hangout with Coach Mariah.
Basically, a way of life.
All right, we're freaking doing it.
I know.
This is
It took a time.
It took a time. Yeah, usually we have the like a pre-communication call, and then we're working through how long it's going to be. And I think we had our call like, I don't even know now, maybe
ages ago,
3 months, 2 months or something like that. But hey, perfection takes time, and we've finally made it. And we've got this beautiful backdrop of your home. Which, thank you for welcoming me in and welcome me in Oakley.
Oh yeah, the love of my life. Sorry, Sam.
But yeah, I'm super excited to have you on because your name pops up a lot in the climbing sphere, the Victorian climbing sphere. And you said on the phone call that I'd somewhat poached a lot of your coaches when you were at Urban as well, because I was just working through the list there. So it's, I'm super excited to have you here. I guess my first, some form of question in terms of the conversation would be what's topical for you right now, and the transition that you're making in career, I think, is probably a nice place to start if you're happy to talk about it. Speak to the people as to what does it look like for yourself. You're pulling out of youth programs and head coaching at Blackburn to now delve into more privates and maybe a bit more of a passion project as well. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I've been working for gyms for 10 years this year, and in like management roles, or I worked as a setter as well for 7 years. And I've been head coach of Blackburn for a year and a half and worked for Urban for 3. This is my 3rd year now. And it's just a lot of work managing gym spaces. Like it's just really time consuming. And I really wanted to put my hard work and my energy as well and my psyche directly into climbers that I coach as well. And between running Coach Mariah, which is my business, and then being head of coaching, I was working like 45 hours a week. And then I was training on top of it and then going to Grampians on the weekend. Like I was so time poor. It's taking us like 3 months to organize this.
Totally worth it.
Yeah. And I just wanted my energy to go directly to the reason that I started coaching in the first place, which was giving that passion and psych to climbers and giving them the tools to also stay psyched and stay with the sport, because it's so common that we drop activities, whatever that activity is. So yeah, big change right now, because I've always subsidized. Like, coaching is such a hard thing. Like climbing is a hard thing in general to make a living off. Coaching is really hard to make a living off. And so everyone I know has subsidized it with some kind of other work, like setting or managing. We've always done other things. And I was just like, I hit a point, I think the 10-year mark really hit me, like, oh my God, I've been doing this for a decade. That's crazy. And so I decided I just wanted to go a bit all in. And so I'm running Coach Mariah, still private coaching at Urban to like retain that sort of community that I have there. But yeah, focusing just solely on climbers, which I'm feeling so psyched about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to jump into that and to like reignite the flame of where the passion came from, I think, as well. I know there was a yoga teacher at my workplace, and he became a yoga teacher because of how much his practice meant to him. So like what his thing meant to him is like, I have to teach this. And after, I think he was probably, maybe it's just a thing, maybe it was around that 10-year mark where he lost his practice because he had to, every morning he would hold a class every morning and he would just be teaching constantly. And he never like was able to like progress his own abilities or progress his own actual yoga, or like he just wasn't really doing it anymore. He dropped back and started his own practice again. Do you feel now that you are going to be like putting more energy into your own personal climbing through that? Like, is there a space for that now, do you feel?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that it's funny to talk about, yoga is a really similar thing. It's that passion project and you ask yourself, I think you do have to ask yourself all the time, if you're doing a passion job and certain parts of it aren't resonating with that passion, you have to reassess it, because I didn't start coaching because I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to make bank coaching. I was like, maybe I can make a living. I did it because I loved it. I just fell in love with coaching and climbing in a very similar time frame. And so you just want to realign constantly when you think about it. And I wasn't feeling like working in a management role was really putting my psyche in the right place. And so I sort of reassessed and I was like, well, I really just love coaching climbers and giving them all of my energy. And then also I did decide not to be an engineer, which was I originally planning what I originally studied, because I wanted to climb. It was the life choice. I wanted to be in the bush. I wanted to be climbing every weekend. And I wanted to be there fresh as well. When you're managing and you're working 45 hours a week on top of your training, you're not fresh when you get to the Grampians. You're there, you make the best of it, but you're not fresh. You're exhausted. And so like part of this change was wanting to carve out more time for my climbing, because I actually think I'm a better coach when I'm climbing. Like, you get premium Coach Mariah. She's come back from 3 days in the Grampians, psyched out of her brains.
I think anyone gets premium anyone when they come back from Grampians. Like, I think I'm a better partner, better business person, better like friend, because you're just coming back being like, oh, I've just let go, I've released, I've like fulfilled passion, I've been in it. And it's so true. Like, it is that. Yeah.
And I think I learned so much from the rock as well that really psychs my coaching and ignites my ideas as well to continue to make my coaching better, but also more creative. So I think being able to spend more time on rock, being able to climb harder as well, and just have that time for those top end projects really builds my psyche, but also just builds my skills as a coach and as a climber.
For sure. Do you find space to, like, as a coach and being in the coaching space for so long as well, is it difficult or hard to coach yourself? Like, is there a way that you, like, do you see these little triggers in yourself, which you've seen so many times in clients or students, that you're now catching? Like, do you feel like there's an applicable nature to now you coaching yourself?
Yeah, I think it's really hard to be your own coach because I think one of the things that I often say about a coach is they're your cheerleader.
Mm.
And I think we're so hard on ourselves. Like, I am absolutely on team Tom if I'm coaching you. Like, I'm there for you. I am your 100% cheerleader.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that for yourself when we're so critical of ourselves, especially if you're like driven in your climbing, you tend to be even tougher on yourself. So I find that element really hard. But in terms of like writing training programs, analyzing my climbing, I'm like, yep, I know what I need to do. Like, it's all
Yeah.
there.
Does that make you almost harder on yourself in a sense then? Like if you're really good at analysing, but you're still bringing this element of, being self-critical, I guess. Do you find that voice gets a little bit harder because you know so deeply what you're doing wrong?
Yeah, I think I find it very hard to perceive myself as a strong climber. I think I really struggle with that, especially because in my head, I'm still the 19-year-old who was, trad climbing with way too little cams and huts and like a few alpine drawers. You have this perception of yourself, and I think it's hard to change it. So I think over the years that I've been training, I've kind of not changed my perspective, even though I've changed as a climber. Whereas I think when you have a coach there, like backing you up, supporting you, and like pushing you to see the positive changes that you made, it makes it a bit clearer for you to see that about yourself. So I think it is really tough to self-coach. I actually wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. It's like not grouse. But I think that being interested in coaching, I do particularly love to train myself because I'm the best guinea pig. It's so fun.
Right.
So I find that to be like super exciting. So I'll write my own training program, test a lot of the stuff that I would try and fit into a week. And then I'd get a lot of insight into why certain things don't work, what are tricky about them, managing gym spaces, all sorts of things that make a training program actually flow well and work for the busy adult. I find I get a lot out of being the guinea pig in that process.
What are some of those things that you find that help things flow well? Or maybe it's just so person to person, but is there things like specific things that allow a training plan to flow well?
Oh, 100%. Like I think what is going to be a great training program on paper is not the same as what you can physically get through in a week.
Yeah.
And also understanding your own psyche. So when do you do parts of your session? Like I always do my strength and conditioning first, even though I know there is a lot of research to show that you should do your climbing specific first, but like I need to do anything pull strength related first because otherwise I'm too tired and I can't get through it. But also after I start climbing, I get sucked into climbing and then I don't get my training done. So it's all little nuances like that about how you fit the most into your week, how you get the most out of it, whether you're a comp kid at school or you're a part-time adult, or you are super busy and have kids, like whatever it is that you manage, like the way that you get through like a quality training program in the week is really different for everyone. But being the guinea pig, I kind of work out a few of those nuances, especially having had different periods in my life where I'm really busy or I'm not that busy or whichever which way, and different periods where I'm training for different things as well. I've been heavily training a lot of my larger muscle groups because I ruptured my pulley and I couldn't train my fingers. So training a lot in a regular weights gym was just a different experience. And I think that was really helpful when thinking about how I would train climbers who specifically needed to work on those areas of more like rounding themselves out with the more S&C.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think that I think a lot of these questions for me are around like coaching and your coaching style are kind of going to be almost feel like a coaching session for me, and I don't mean it to, but the questions are just coming from me because of my curiosities. But I've never really stuck to I've never had a proper training plan, only what I've written out myself in terms of just like trying to be consistent. But I did write or get ChatGPT to write me one and put in my goals and put in like, I'm heading to Yosemite and I would love if I did climb Midnight Lightning as a V8 boulder. So I put in all those parameters and it kind of knew the style of Midnight Lightning, which was kind of cool. And it's written out this training plan, but it's missing something, like it's this personalization, which I'm not responsive to. Like on paper, I feel like it does look good. It's got progressive load. It's got like all of these things in it as well. But for me, it's not like super engaging. What would you say is like the thing that's obviously it's the human that's missing, but like what other elements would you bring to a training plan, I guess, that ChatGPT isn't or it does?
There's the human element, of course, of like, but I think problem solving, like it can't look at a person as an individual and problem solve everything and how to fit it into the week. And it's going to give you this training program, which is, this is what you should do, Tom, not like what is Tom actually able to do in a week. It doesn't take into account like your mental state, your work week, what days of the week you don't want to train. Like ChatGPT is going to have you doing core on a Friday night and you're just not going to do that. It's not going to work. Yeah. Training programs are absolutely.
It does, FYI, it does have me doing core on a Friday.
Yeah.
That's where I should be right now.
Yeah, doing core. Yeah. It doesn't look at the whole picture, but also what you ChatGPT will be taking it from online sources, and climbing is in its infant stages of research in terms of training. You have to be so committed to want to write really high quality training programs to source all of your information from 10,000 different places. Like I did a bachelor's degree in sports science and it wasn't enough to write effective training programs for climbing. And it was a 3-year degree. You have to do all of these other courses. You have to seek out the research. You have to make sure that you're up to date. There's so many different things that you can't just get from online. It's also that expertise and experience around problem solving. You have to solve the problem of how do I fit the most of it into the week? And the most is not volume, it's the most in terms of high quality. What can I fit into a week that is going to be reasonable, that I can get done, that is going to be high quality and that's going to work towards my goals? And actually problem solving all of that is a stepwise process. Like if I said to you, okay, we're going to do the ultimate Tom training program. We're going to start next week. You would do it for a week and be like, holy good Lord, that is so hard, Mariah. I can't do that every week. This is my training.
Yeah. You summed up my training so hard.
Yeah. So we would start. It's like I think of the Shrek quote, you know, like the onion.
Yeah. What about parfait?
Yeah, the parfait. Yeah. There's layers, the parfait layers of the training program. You have layer 1 where you're doing like, you're adding in one new session in a week and you're really sort of upping it. And then the second block, you'll up more. You can't go from never having trained in a structured manner to like, yeah, I'm doing core flexibility, mobility, I'm doing my 4x4s. Like you can't put everything into a week straight away because that consistency hasn't been built. You're going to mentally burn out. And I think people really underestimate the mental side of training consistently and how the hard work involved really does tax us. They just think of what can my body physically take in terms of a pummeling in a week. Yep. It's a lot more complex than that. I think ChatGPT doesn't see us as humans. It's like, you're a machine. What can you physically get through in the week? And ChatGPT will throw you this program that you're like, oh my God, I'm going to cry if I do that.
100. I see when you said that, I think it's almost the opposite for me in the sense of my mind. It's not like my body keeping up and my mind being like faltered in any sense. It's like my mind wants to do it. But then as I ramp up training, and maybe because it's too much or something like that, I just feel it so heavily in my body and my body can't really pull through. Like for me to build consistency, it's been like quite difficult, I would say. So like, especially now with this training program that I've got to try and build like 6 weeks, I leave now. And it's just been so not month on, but like week on, week off. Like I had a bit of a finger injury. So then kind of working through that, which is now in a good place. So then 2 weeks ago, I had this like really, really good week of kind of like ticking the boxes of which I wanted to tick, and then got sick. So then I almost had like a week off. Like how would you deal with these, like the inconsistencies, but also like life's inevitabilities as well?
Well, I think that there's a really big difference between what you can do on paper and what you can actually get through. And reflecting on those differences is really important. So there's like another difference between like a human writing versus not human writing it. Like I read a climbing text that said that an intermediate climber should be able to do 15 pull-ups. Intermediate climber. I had climbed 22 outdoors and could not do a pull-up the same time. Like I couldn't do a pull-up at that time. So what's on paper in terms of literature when climbing training is so new is not accurate in many ways. And also it's applying it to every single person in the world, not going to work. We need that human inevitable, like we have that human inevitability that something's going to go wrong, and we have to reflect on what actually works for us. So when you have a busy work week, it's pre-planning for that. Or if it's, you know, you've had a week, you wrote a training program, you couldn't get through it, reflecting on why and thinking about processing that so you don't then hit the same issue next week where you just cannot get through all of those sessions. So it's starting from where you are, being realistic, and also reflecting on it as you do it. If you get, Friday nights you're too exhausted after work, you need to accept that. That's the best way forward for your training programs, to actually accept the days that you really don't have the bandwidth to train, and being flexible with how you arrange it as well. Like a huge part of the way I write training programs is I use Sequence, which is an app developed by Blue Mountain Climbers. Jake Bresnan started it in the Blues, and you can like hold down the sessions and just move the day. And I teach people, so I write a program, but I actually teach people, okay, if you're going to move this session, you can't move it to here, because then you'd have like 3 days in a row as an example. Right. So like giving people that ability to be flexible and focusing on more on, I want to get through X amount in the week. I don't need to do X, Y, and Z, every single Tuesday. I just need to try and get through it in a week. So if I need that flexibility, it's there.
Yep.
And planning for those periods where you are probably not going to be able to train as much, and you can plan around that to make it like to still get a lot out of your training. Like I tried to this is a great example. Like I on paper set myself strength testing after being away for youth nationals for 5 days, and I came back and I was like, oh my God, I can't do a single pull up. I'm so tired because I was just
intermediate. No,
yeah, literally. I was like, oh my God, I'm going backwards because I was so mentally exhausted from 5 days of looking after my youth athletes, and I just was like, oh yeah, on paper I have a day's rest in between. She'll be right. Yeah. She was not right. I could not strength test, and like being able to tell that ahead of time and actually just take it as it comes. Like I just changed the day that I strength tested. It was not that big of a deal. I wasn't going to get anything out of strength testing when I was exhausted anyway.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it just takes so much self-reflection and self-awareness, doesn't it? And I guess that's where a coach has so much time and time under their belt in terms of doing that process, which is kind of a little bit of what we were talking about previously with being like so process driven, and like how we get like so nuanced when climbing and trying to find motivation from just like these very small micro betas, or just like little like blips in your brain of positivity, and like when you are projecting hard or something like this. Can you speak, or do you see much in the coaching sphere of, it's something that I'm like really getting my head around and being new at, is like being process driven versus outcome driven? Like I've noticed this on my recent project of the Allfather. Beautiful climb, really, really cool climb. And yeah, it's one of those ones that, it's been like 2 years of climbing on it, maybe 8 sessions all up or something like that. I can't really remember, but like really, really worked at it. And it was just such a nice problem to solve. And the feeling of actually clipping the chains wasn't as nice as what I was expecting. Like the outcome wasn't really the goal, it seemed, which is like, that's the one for me that's really like dropped in my memory, where I'm like, oh, I miss it. Like I miss going out there and being in the cold, because it's a super cold crag, south facing. So you always get like quite chilly in this little like tunnel that you have to belay out of. But yeah, there's this like part of me that's now like, I miss this process of being on this climb, and I knew it's going to come again. But yeah, can you speak to being process driven versus outcome driven?
It's a funny thing to talk about, because it's so vital in my experience to not falling out of love with climbing. Is, can you enjoy the process? When it comes to projecting for like the outdoor climbers, there is so few days where we have those genuine send days. Like you've worked, and by genuine I mean you've really worked towards that project enough that it's that rewarding. So that's such a few and far between experience, that if you're only able to enjoy climbing on those days, there is going to be a lot that is in your everyday life or in your weekly schedule of climbing that you're not going to enjoy, and it's just not going to be enough to keep you in the sport, because it's so much hard work. So learning how to enjoy that process is what keeps us in the sport. It's the same thing as with any comp climbers. I see it with comp kids all the time. It's so much hard work to be an excellent comp climber, or even just to be a climber.
Sure, yeah.
If you don't love it, that hard work is never going to feel worth it because you're just not going to enjoy it. So you have to circle back to how do you enjoy the process, and how you do it is constantly asking yourself questions about what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, why do you do it? I have a process at the moment before I get on my project, or before I get on any project. Maybe I'm red pointing or I'm trying something hard. And it might sound super cheesy, but I'll be sitting under the climb, and I said to my best mate the other day when we were out there, I was like, oh, I've got this new strategy where, like, to try and relax myself before a red point attempt, I'll tell myself, I wait all week. I work all week to wait to go to the Grampians, to climb this thing. Getting out here, that's the goal, is to, wait all week, work hard, earn a living, and then come out here and be able to climb. That's the privilege that I have right now, is I'm actually here now. I get to do the thing that I've waited all week to do. And I'm not going to waste that by being frustrated if I don't send or not. Like, I'm going to do my very best to enjoy being out here, doing the thing that I waited to do all week, that we also don't get to do every weekend. Everyone is busy. People have lives, jobs, kids, families, So we're trying to be more process oriented, we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? And refocus back on that. Like, I don't climb to send. The sending part is obviously really fun, but there's so many more reasons why we climb. We have to ask ourselves questions, because otherwise we don't survive the process. It's not enough. One send day out of, like, however many days that you climb or you train is not enough. So you have to find those ways. And it comes from asking questions. It comes from working with a coach, from seeking support from friends, having healthy conversations about what you want to get out of climbing. Why do you love it? And reminding yourself why you love it as well. Like, I do this for fun. I do this because I want to push myself. I love the challenge. I do this because I love the movement. Remind yourselves of those things when you have those hard days, because that's what allows you to enjoy those hard days. Like, I love the process of, like, inching my way towards something that once felt impossible. And so when I focus on the fact that what I really enjoy is the challenge, and then working towards something that was crazy impossible to start with, it then brings me back, and it really grounds me, and it reminds me that every little bit of process I get, oh, that's the process that I'm enjoying. That's why I'm here, for the challenge. If it was easy, it wouldn't be as fun.
Yep.
I say this to kids all the time when I'm coaching, really, really young kids particularly, when they're, like, not able to explain why they're not enjoying something that's hard. Maybe they don't have the words yet. A lot of the kids I coach I do coach some really young kids. And I said to a kid the other day, I was like, well, if this boulder was a yellow, like the easiest climb at Blackburn, I'm like, would it be fun if it was a yellow? If we were just doing a yellow like 10 times? He was like, no, wouldn't be fun. I'm like, why wouldn't it be fun? Oh, well, it's boring. It's not challenging. I was like, so this boulder is really hard. Is that what makes it good? And this 8-year-old, like, rolls his eyes at me, and he's like, oh, you hit me with that one, Mariah.
Got him.
He's like, oh, you got me. He was like, yeah, it is fun because it's challenging. Oh, I guess I'll try it again.
Yeah.
Like, reminding ourselves why we're there. You know, you have to reflect with your climbing.
Yeah. And for a climber to, I guess, grapple with, like, the reasons why is generally because of, like, the difficulty or the feeling of when things are, like, at your maximum. Maybe that's not true. Maybe there are climbers that go out and just really enjoy climbing and just getting miles under their belt. But maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I like yourself, I really enjoy the feeling where something's just, like, on the edge. Like, if it's a spectrum, it's, like, right in the middle of, like, easy and hard. And I'm just, like, kind of, you can get into those flow states, I think, a lot simpler, and you can problem. So, like, it brings all of the elements of climbing, of which I enjoy, in, if the climb is, like, at this level of difficulty where it's just like, I can't be lax in my mind, but it's also not super difficult.
Yeah. And when you dig deep enough, you really start to understand why you're doing the thing that you're doing. And if you do dig into it, you then are able to form strategies around how to enjoy the process. I have lots of friends who just love to trad climb because they just love to be out. And when you remind yourself why you want to climb, it's easy to then ground back to that purpose. You know, you aren't there to climb hard things. You're there to have a good day out. So if something goes wrong, you can, remind yourself of that and go, oh, I'm just happy to be out. It's okay if I didn't quite get on the climb I wanted, because I'm just happy to be out. If my process is that, oh, well, I really love the challenge, and I think particularly people resonate with, I love the feeling of being able to do something I didn't think I could do. And so when I think of like working a long-term project, like particularly I love to pick things that are like super physical, steep, powerful. Because in my head, that's just not the climber that I was once upon a time. So I like seek those challenges.
Yeah.
And so maybe I didn't send a route, or maybe I didn't quite get further through the process that I thought, but I remind myself, oh, I'm doing the thing that like once upon a time I wouldn't even thought was possible for me. You know, I like the idea of doing things that are like hard and physical. And if I get to do that, it was like, well, that's the point of that climbing process for me. So you just really circling back to why you want to do it in the first place.
It's an opportunity to prove your process in a sense.
Yeah, to prove that you can do these things, you know?
Yeah. With a lot of the youth and the kids coaching, like how difficult is it to separate when they are so outcome driven, I guess, and maybe all these kids, maybe not even the younger kids maybe just want to play, but as you kind of get the kids into the comp levels and everything like that as well, and they're not taking podiums, they're not doing these things, how hard is it for them to draw back into a process sort of driven mindset?
It is really hard to be a comp youth climber, like hands down, incredibly hard. Probably one of the hardest things to do in terms of youth sport. I mean, I was a youth athlete. I played sport at a high level for a long period of time, a different sport. And it's super hard to manage life as a young adult, let alone the things that climbing throws at you. And all the skills that we have about being process orientated, putting our egos aside, having self-confidence, circling back to why we love it in the first place, those skills are adult skills. They take so long to develop. And so then you have these kids who they are excellent. Maybe they are climbing, 26 and they're 10, but they still they cry when they fall, and they have to learn how to feel confident, feel good about themselves, not have what grade they're sending be directly attached to their self-worth. Like it's quite a hard process for them, but it's one that also makes them more durable adults, young adults. Like they actually learn life skills out of learning to separate a grade that they climb and who they are as a person and who they are as a climber.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I just couldn't imagine. Like, I feel like even going through or like beginning climbing at 25 or 26 when I started climbing, and just like dealing with the feelings there as already a pretty fully fledged adult, I would say, it's almost puts a pressure, like maybe an unspoken pressure on yourself to be that mind for them, to allow to bring that perspective and that awareness in. I know where Angus or Gus got this from, but kind of resonated with me as well when he first said it on the podcast, was the coach is like the third most important person in those kids' lives, because you got the mum, the dad, and the coach, who's really like spending a lot of time with them if they're doing 3 or 4 days at the gym or at the footy club or whatever it is. How do you feel about like that responsibility? Is it, I guess it's kind of like a privilege to have it, but yeah, it feels like a lot of pressure for yourself, and you're dealing with so many kids at in the youth squads.
I think having been a youth athlete myself and gone through the system in another sport, I have a huge respect for the responsibility that I have, in a way that, yeah, it is a lot of pressure, but it's a job I take very seriously, because I still remember things that were said to me as a youth athlete when I was like 10, 14, 16, and I'm 31.
Yeah.
And I remember where I was, what I was wearing, what the expression was on my coach face, what they said to me, negative and positive experiences, but a lot of negative I remember. So I really respect the responsibility of being a coach, but I also take pride in the fact that you can have a really positive impact on a young person's life in that role. And, you talk about how do you separate sending with your self-worth as a person, your self-worth as a climber? How do you get more process orientated? Like, having gone through all of that myself, I can impart that with my kids and teach them the skills to stay in love with climbing, to not burn out, because that's the big risk for youth comp climbers, is not making it to open age climbing, like not making it to the open circuit, because they're so burnt out from competition climbing by the time they turn 18 that they stop competing. And that my goal for them is that they'll be lifelong climbers, they'll love it in whichever way possible, not just love it when they're a kid.
Yeah.
You know, because it's such a beautiful sport, and learning to love the different parts of the sport as well. But yeah, it is a huge responsibility. But I think the fact that I've been through it myself, I think really allows me to ground on, well, what did I want from my coaches when I was so heavily in love with the sport? Like, it was the one thing I wanted to do all day, every day. And the reality is, you want time from them. You want their opinion, their expertise, their support, but you also just want their praise. You just want to have your hard work acknowledged. And you want them to take you seriously as well. You, as a youth athlete, you do often get told, like, oh, it's just X, you know, it's just climbing, or it's, you know, it's just a sport. Like, don't be so hard on yourself. Well, that person saying don't be so hard on yourself, or like don't take it so seriously, it really just tells that kid, like, you don't really get it. You don't get that this is super important to me, and you're just brushing it off as not that important. So having gone through the system myself, I think I can really understand what the kids are after and what support they would need, what do they want, and also taking responsibility for the fact that as a coach, what you say matters. And you might say one given thing in a training that kid will remember as an adult, because there are things that were said to me as a youth athlete that I remember to this day.
Yeah.
And being very aware of that and taking the time to think through how I answer questions, not just speak before I think, you know, and have that respect for the fact that they are very impressionable at that age, and that you're someone that they look up to. So if you say something that's hurtful or maybe just a bit inaccurate, it actually has a lasting wound.
Yeah, words and actions as well. Like, they're just going to be like fully sponging off you.
They are absolute sponges. And they love to quote you. Oh my God. Don't tell them the wrong thing, because they'll quote it back to you.
Alex.
Yeah. They're too smart for their own good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably a privilege too, and I assume you would have kickstarted a lot of these youth climbers into climbing and like help them build this like healthy relationship with the sport. Like, how does it feel, or what would you say to the climbers that you have kickstarted their career?
It's a bit surreal some days. It's funny, having hit the 10-year mark, it's just so confronting how long I've been doing this for. But I guess it's also just a joy to see kids that I've coached and kids that have come through that system still loving climbing. I coached my first ever class was on a Friday night. The first class I had to myself as a coach was on a Friday night. And one of the first kids the first few kids that enrolled, I actually coached one of those kids all the way through from the ages of 12 was when she joined, to I was still coaching her at 22.
Cool.
It was very cool. So it was like the full length of my coaching period. I coached her the entire time. And it's really cool to think that you could have that positive impact on other people's climbing journey, because climbing has had such a positive impact on my life. Like, I would just be doing a completely different, my life would look so different without climbing. So to be able to like positive influence someone else's climbing journey is a really special thing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure you've like on the micro and the macro, like influenced so many different climbers' journey for the more positive. I think it's kind of beautiful.
It's cool to have been around for a long time and to have worked at so many different gyms, to just know so many different climbers. Like, I think it's a real privilege to know the Melbourne climbing community as well as I know it.
Yeah.
You know, and to have so much love for the Melbourne climbing community as well. Like, yeah, I've been climbing I've been living in Melbourne climbing in Victoria for 13 years and working in Melbourne's gym for 10. And I just know so many Melbourne climbers now. It's just, I just love the Melbourne climbing community. It's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, it's an awesome community. You know, and it's something that's what this podcast is kind of like, such an offside benefit for me, is like being now in touch with the climbing community more. You know, like I was like somewhat maybe on my own choices, but I isolated at my gym and wasn't like in all the other gyms and bumping into a lot of people. It was just kind of bumping into the same people. But now this podcast has allowed me to like reach out and speak to other climbers across Australia and like kind of see what those communities are like and feel what they're like as well. And it's just, yeah, the more I get to know it, it's just like deeper and deeper and more kind. And it's, yeah, we're super lucky.
It's a really cool thing to be a part of. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so psyched right now to be focusing more on running Coach Mariah and still working at Urban Climb as a private coach, because it means I get to coach as many climbers as possible, right? Like I'm not just wedded to one small hub, because gyms become that, right? If you just work for one gym. But like I work at Blackburn, I work at Collingwood, I spent a lot of time at Northside, I go out to Cliffhanger. Like it's really cool to be a part of all those different hubs, you know? You get to work with so many more climbers, and accessibility is really important for coaching to me, because there's not that many coaches and there's not that many in Melbourne. Even, it just goes down the
Especially
list.
with your experience.
Yeah, with 10 years experience is a lot of work.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be so proud of yourself. Like there's now, I would say, like a lot of coaches are coming up and, they're in that 1 or 2 year kind of area, I think, of coaching. But yeah, you're the master coach, kind of, paving the way for everyone, which has been so cool. And it's been nice to kind of get to know you as well and be wrapped in your community. You've got a bunch of nice, beautiful people around you as well.
I think that was the hardest part about stepping down from the head coaching role at Blackburn, is I had a team of 12 coaches that I was training. Oh man, they're just the best bunch of kids. Like I see them as kids because my nickname was Mum at work, but Mama Coach. But they really brought me so much joy to be able to teach coaches. That's something that I really enjoyed doing, and to see their passion ignited for the same thing that I love. Because when I first started, I was, their age. I was there. Most of my coaches that I worked with were, early 20s, and I was 20. I just turned 22 when I started coaching, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. It, cool. It still is. I still think that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But it is, that passion, and just seeing the joy you get from working with climbers and helping climbers have sendy days, or just happy days, is more the better description.
Yeah, it must be like wrapped up in their, like so in their journeys as well. Like so many different people, I think, over the course of the 10 years, plus the coaches that you've kind of brought up, and they'll be coming to you to be like, I did it, I sent the project, or like, I'm finally going on that trip. And like, you just get in so much of this, like, I guess, energy coming back at you of all of these stories, and sometimes all the bad as well. Like, oh, fuck, Mariah got an injury. Like, I can't do it later. How do you balance that? Like, there's probably, I would assume, like a lot of information coming towards you. It's kind of like compartmentalizing between your climbing journey and everything that you're doing there, but then also everyone who's kind of telling you and telling you their stories and creating a space for that.
There's definitely heaps of both of those things. There's the bad days, the good days, the in-between days. I think particularly knowing that you can support someone through it, though, is a really special thing. I obviously get the good days a lot where, I get calls from clients where they've had a send day and they just can't believe it, and I'm the first person they call. I had someone recently that sent a project, and he's 21 and he called me telling me about his project, and he's like, okay, I gotta go call my mum now, I had to call you first. And his mum's a climber, so he was like, I had to call you first, I had to tell you I sent my project.
So that's so
awesome. It's beautiful to be part of that process, because you really feel the joy just like it was your own send. But then at the same time, it is really hard, because particularly whether or not it's outdoor climbers getting injured, I think that's the big one. My heart breaks for when my climbers get injured, especially having been through a pretty serious string of injuries for myself recently. But also teaching comp kids that unfortunately hard work doesn't always result in them winning or them podium or reaching their goals. That's a really hard process to watch. It's really hard to watch kids, have foot slips at the first draw at nationals, or to, miss out on podium places by like one attempt to a zone. Sure. And, when they cry, you want to cry. Like, you just watching them have such big emotions and knowing intimately how much how hard they've worked for it. As Gus was saying, you are like the third person they spend the most amount of time with. You're with them all the time. You work hard with them. And then to watch their dreams not become a reality is really hard. But you also then are part of the process of teaching them to pick themselves back up again. And I think that's a really important part of being a coach, is you can't just be there for the podiums. You have to be there for when they fall, when they fail, to pick themselves back up again, and to remind them that they don't actually lose until they stop trying. So, and that climbing should be a lifelong pursuit, not something that we just pursue for a short period of time.
Yep. That's again dealing with those inevitables, isn't it?
I think the hardest thing with comp kids is when they work really hard and it didn't give them the result they wanted, because you want to teach kids that if they work really hard, they get the things that they want.
Right.
You really want it to be true, but some days it's just not, especially with comp climbing. It's brutal. Speed was the hardest. Speed is brutal. 1 foot slip and it's over.
Right.
But when it comes to adults, I think it's a bit easier because they have that emotional maturity and a bit more patience. And they've probably been through more in their life to know that they can make these comebacks. But yeah, the send days are pretty special though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. To speak on the Saturdays in the moment, like it's something that you can speak from experience as well. Like I watched the video where you heard that, and it just gives you shivers when you watch and hear of a tendon going or a pulley going. How, like, looking back on that, when was that actually to start off with?
So we're in July now. So it was October of last year, October 17th. No, who's counting? So it was like 10 months I've been battling injuries. It was that sound. Oh God.
That's the worst. Oh,
I just knew as well.
Yeah.
That sound was like, oh yeah, I've done a pulley. This is it. And I haven't just done it, like it's ruptured. Nothing makes a sound that loud that isn't,
when you can
that
hear
is fully
it through
intact.
the screen whilst watching, it ricochets in the valley below you. You're like, oh God. Yeah, I feel when you watch those videos. But now, like, in that space of reflection and looking back on it and being able to draw upon that experience for your clients and students and everything of the sorts, like, what were the lessons and the things that you have, like, I guess the positive things that you've taken from a seemingly negative experience?
The thing that I learned and I took away most from the pulley injury was that if you are super strong in one area and you just use that one strength, eventually that strength will break. Eventually. It's just a matter of time. I self-coach. I had no context for how strong my fingers were at all. I didn't share my stats with anyone. I self-coached. I didn't need to. And I did not know that my fingers were so strong and the rest of me was so weak. I just didn't know. There's not really any quality statistics for you to compare female climbers. There's a lot less research on female climbers, especially my age, and also just with the variations in like height and all those things. So I just didn't know that I was so finger dominant until I had overused my strength on a boulder to the point that my finger just literally exploded. Like, I literally just pulled so hard that my pulley ruptured on me. I didn't have a foot pop, anything. I just reefed until my pulley literally exploded.
Wow.
And what I learned and took away from that was when I started to look at the whole picture of how I could get better, how I could balance out my strengths, where my strengths were, where my weaknesses were, I had these huge imbalances. My background in sport meant that my quads were really strong. My hamstrings weren't that strong. I had really strong fingers, but my pull strength was really weak by comparison.
And
but then my pull strength
through testing, like you were just testing, like you went through like a big testing process to see where those imbalances were.
Yeah, I went through a whole body testing process to work out where my strengths and weaknesses were, and also how to train my entire body, because I couldn't train my fingers anymore because they were like, my finger was exploded. Like there was no way to train my fingers. And so I went from, okay, I'm not going to train my fingers, but by comparison, my shoulders are pretty weak. But then by comparison, my chest is even weaker. Like learning that I was so off balance made me realize that I just had this superpower of super strong fingers that I was just abusing essentially. And then my finger broke and it made sense. And the process of recovery was really focusing on strengthening everything else so that I wasn't so reliant on my strong fingers. Because it wasn't until I was doing like rehab pulls on the tin deck and like kind of sharing that information with my osteo, who was like, bro, your fingers are like injured and still really strong. This is wild. And I was like, oh yeah, but my shoulders are weak as heck, dude. And so having to, build a lot of shoulder. I've done so many pull-ups. Oh my God. So many weighted pull-ups, so much bench press. But now I'm a much more well-rounded climber. And interestingly, the most confronting sensation I've noticed coming back from my injury is that in strengthening my shoulders, small crimps or bad handholds actually felt better because I wasn't just trying to hold on to these crimps with just my fingers anymore. My shoulders were working. So it's like, imagine going up to a crimp and hold the crimp with your shoulders engaged versus hold it with like you're literally only using your fingers. Yeah. Like I all of a sudden had these big muscle groups to use. And so smaller holds weren't as bad because my fingers weren't the only thing that was working. And that also really allowed me to use a lot of the like strength and conditioning background that I learned from my bachelor's. So I really was my own guinea pig in that process. Kind of fell in love with being in a regular weights gym too, just because I could go, put my headphones on, go for an hour. No one would talk to me and I just kind of train. Yeah. I get so distracted in a climbing gym. I talk to like literally everyone under the sun.
Sorry, I spoke to you that one time.
Yeah, I can never get anywhere on time when I'm in climbing gyms. Yeah. And I love it. Like I obviously talk underwater, but it's like so hard to get stuff done. So like learning to be a more well-rounded climber and to consider my whole body as the training vessel rather than just the climbing specific muscles, which we all overtrain, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably like clears one of my questions, because there's like this conversation that happens in the climbing world of like strength training and how deep to go into strength training and is it worth it and how much should we do it and everything like that as well. But it feels like you're in the proponent or the side of like really building up that base and building up that strength. And would you like almost prescribe like a powerlifting-esque, obviously without like the max reps and everything like that, but just really honing in on strong body, you know, pull-ups, bench, squat, deadlift sort of thing, and get like a really, really good base down of strength and allow the body to then adapt into that?
It's a very good question. I think that, yes, I think doing SC or just base strength training is really important for every climber, not just because you want to climb better, because you want to not be injured, because you want to not grow old and not be able to walk, to look after your body essentially. But in terms of training programs specifically and like strength training, I think that actually sometimes it gets put too high on the priority list. I mean, I have been climbing for 13 years on rock, and strength training was something I did in a conjunction with learning how to climb. I think that a lot of the time these days, people don't focus on their movement. They're like, oh, I can't hold this crimp, therefore I need stronger fingers. It's like, yeah, bro, I can't hold that crimp like that either. Like, I've been climbing for 13 years.
We're not Alex Magos.
We're not going to one-arm lock off on this crimp. Totally. We're actually going to think about how our body should be positioned on the holds. I always say, like, if your body position is bad enough, you can't hold a jug.
Yeah.
So it's really about thinking about the whole picture.
Yep.
Everyone should strengthen condition because it's what's good for our bodies, and lifting weights, resistance training has so much research on it because every sport does it, right? Every single sport lifts weights. Doesn't matter what sport you're doing. So that's a huge element of just keeping yourself fit and healthy and keeping yourself injury free. But then in terms of the climber specific side, that's where a coach is so important. Like, I know that obviously I'm a coach. Yeah, I'm going to say coaches are important, but like, you need to work out what is your weakness and what is the barrier between you and the things that you want to do. And a lot of the time that might be, I am not quite utilizing my technical skills enough. If you want to climb long, sustained sport routes and you're pretty strong already, then you need to look elsewhere. And a coach will be able to look at that whole big picture image, which is what I do a lot of in my work, is like look at someone climb and give them advice on where is the next steps for them. Should they be doing a training program? Do they need to refine their technical skills, or do they just need some more fitness? Like, there's a different approach for every climber.
Yep. If maybe, let's just say from scratch, you're building a climber, you know, like that's just got a stock human with no skills or anything like this at all, and you are building a percentage of a climber, and you're like, you know, we're putting in strength, technique, endurance, and I guess maybe like a skills work or something like that. Flexibility I put down as well. Like, what kind of percentage do you feel, if there is one, there's so many unique body types, but to build like the perfect climbing type, how would you percentage and break down like strength, flexibility, technique, and things like this?
First of all, I love this question so much. I always want to approach training with a stock standard faceless human.
Totally, yeah. Remove everything, forget everything, do this.
No, it's such a good question. So if you were like new to climbing and let's say, you've got a nondescript background, right?
Sure.
You've got no background. Actually, I think it's really, really valuable to start really weak. It's kind of a funny one, but my husband and I have talked about this a lot. We both came into climbing with like negative upper body strength. Like I don't think I could do a push-up. I came from a lower body sport. Now, if you come into climbing and you're not upper body dominant, you will have to problem solve ways to be efficient. There's no other way around it. If you can't do a pull-up, you can't do one on a wall. Like it doesn't matter. You don't have that skill available to you. But if you come into climbing, ex-gymnast is a great example, and you have all this strength on offer, and I say, well, I want you to learn to do a heel hook, this super tricky technical skill that's specific to this sport, and you're like, but I can just do a pull-up and reach that hold. Right. You're going to use the skill that you have on offer to you, and you're going to do a pull-up. So if you came into climbing, I would say to focus on the movement patterns, the skills first. That would be my first go-to. You need to learn how to climb. Once you are starting to build those technical skills, adding in strength training afterwards will only benefit your climbing. And I heard this in a podcast with Dave McLeod. The Nugget interviewed Dave McLeod, and he talked about how when he strength trains, because he has a technical foundation, for every little bit of strength he gains, he can see the difference on the wall. And that's exactly how I feel when I train. I have been climbing trad and climbing like sustained, slow, long routes at a wraps for the first 7 years of my climbing. So by the time I started strength training, I'd learned how to climb efficient, but now I needed to get strong, especially to make that transition from a wraps climbing to like steep Grampians sport or Grampians bouldering. But you need those technical skills first so that strength gives you so much more, because every little inch of strength you get, you can apply correctly because you've already got that base foundation of how to move efficiently on the wall, how to move technically, how to use the strength that you have to the maximum. But if you're just getting strong at first, you're probably just going to find it's easier to do pull-ups on the wall or a really cool bicep curl. Just yank in with one arm.
Yeah, good at underclings.
Yeah, just grouse at underclings.
Really good at juggy underclings. Yeah, well, if you're then like technique and a skills mindset, I think, how do you train that in a sense, with maybe without a coach, or if you're looking at someone? That's leading into another question that I think I have, but just with like, if myself working on skills training, like, are you just drilling footwork and just kind of working through these specific things?
I think there's different ways to do it. I think that drills are really popular because I think that like media sort of popularizes the quick, fast way to do things. Like, do this drill to become the best climber in the world. Yeah. Bro, I wish that was true. But really it's about actively thinking about more efficient ways to climb and practicing the same things over and over again. So it's not one, there's not one magical drill, but it's your mindset. It's, okay, I've climbed a slab route. I flashed it. Am I going to do it again? Can I do it better? How am I moving? Is that my priority? Am I thinking about how I'm moving, or am I thinking about sending at all costs? Right. The best and most technical climbers that I know have a mindset of doing things and moving well on the wall rather than just pulling. The thing is if you get halfway through a route, or you get a few moves into a boulder and you're like, man, I just pulled my way up it. There's a huge part of your expertise that comes into play. And it's like, I don't think I'm going to send the boulder that way. Like, I'm just yanking. I'm just using all of my strength. So we have this, I think, getting that mindset that you are there to learn. Hazel Finlay calls it like the mastery mindset. Like, you're there to try and master the sport. If you have that mindset, then whatever drill you do, whatever format you find online to practice your technical skills, it will help because your mindset is there to focus on trying to be a better climber. But if you're really just there to send, to get to the top of the boulder at all costs, then no amount of drills is going to help because your mindset is still, I want to pull really hard.
It really comes back to process and outcome again, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, what's your goal? What's your why? Is your why to just get to the top of that climb? Because it's probably going to get pretty tiring after a time, because that's all you're going to do.
And like, I make a joke. I mean, I love to like heckle and joke around with my climbers, but I worked with someone the other day and he he did a climb. He looked at me and he was like, man, that was so bad. I just pulled. And I was like, man, my biceps are sore just watching you. Like he just like yanked his whole way up the boulder, and he just knew when he got to the top of the boulder, he came down. He's like, you're going to make me do that again, aren't you? I'm like, yep. Yep, I'm going to make you do that so many more times. We're going to do it about 10,000% better.
Yeah.
But just he had the mindset that was like, oh, I knew that I just pulled. And you can feel it. You know what? We know what pulling is.
Yeah, and flow. There's like when you're in that state of flow and the body is kind of just moving itself into these natural positions of like, you know, effortless flow is what I kind of like to say, because when you're in that flow state, the moves don't feel hard. You know, it feels like you're trying, but, you know, when you do, say you get the tick or you just get like a section done, you're like, oh, it didn't feel as hard as it normally does. I'm like, yeah, it's probably you moved in the most efficient way that you could.
And that's how you analyze as well whether or not the beta on a project is actually right for you, because it's like, well, does that feel efficient for me? Does that feel good for me? Can I repeat it from the ground? Am I using my skills, or am I just yanking? One of the most common reasons why someone says to me that they sought a coach is they'll say something along the lines of, oh yeah, I just was climbing, but I felt like I was just pulling the entire time, or I feel like I'm not climbing efficiently and I just want some advice on how to work on that. Or someone will say like, I'm just all strength. I came from gymnastics background is a good common one, or like calisthenics. They'll be like, oh, I'm just really strong, but I don't know how to climb yet. I need help. That's the most common sort of starting point when people have that mindset of they know what pulling hard or working hard physically feels like. They want it to feel like flow. They want it to feel smooth. And it's funny because, when Hazel Finlay talks about flow, she asks the question, do we climb to be able to find flow state? Is that what what we want to do? Do we want to be in that flow state when we climb? Is that the goal, to send in flow state? Or do we actually climb full stop because being in flow state is so enjoyable in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, what is the goal? Is it to send in flow state, or is it just to be in flow state?
Yeah, I resonates heavily, because for me, I think like I wanted to name this podcast around flow states or something like that. My mate named his plumbing business Flow States. He's a jiu-jitsu practitioner and like really gets into flow with that, and surfs as well. So like it interests me so much, flow states really do, because nothing else matters in that space. Like time doesn't even really exist either. Like you could have been climbing or doing the practice, whatever it is, for 2 minutes, 20 minutes, and it just doesn't feel like any of that, because like all of these things have been dissolved, because everything has come together to create this like perfect moment where you are probably just incredibly present, or so present in the exact moment, but so present that you're not even thinking. Like it's just like complete dissolution.
And a lot of climbers, I've noticed, actually think that flow state is a climbing thing, but it's actually a life thing.
You can get it doing dishes.
Because flow state is, well, if anyone doesn't know, like flow state is when you're doing an activity and you get into, flow state, which means that you're doing an activity where you don't have to actively think about it, but your body is just moving of its own accord. You're in that mindful practice where you're just moving and it feels quite effortless in a way. And yet the time is a really common one that people talk about. Like you pop out of flow state and it's like no time has passed, or you're so relaxed that you don't notice time passing. And it's been kind of popularized in the climbing industry, but it is a life thing that has been studied across various acts. It's been studied in music and everything. It's really interesting as a concept. And it's a very special thing to experience. And I think that's why projecting is such a huge part of climbing, because projecting is, I would say, the most common way in which we reach flow state, because we rehearse moves in a project. So when we go into the project and we're just there to do the dance, as we say, you can get into that flow state because you don't have to like actively think about reading the route or reading the boulder. You're in a flow state of, I know what to do, I just need to do it. And then that dance that you do is so enjoyable because you're just moving without even having to think about it.
And I think that's, for me, we talked earlier, like that's why sport climbing is probably the most enticing style, like because you can get to a state where you really don't have to think. Like actually, I spoke to Connor about this as well, or Connor and Rachel and Jake, and they were saying like trad almost is another element as well. Like if you are red point trad climbing, and it's just another element of placing gear in that flow state. Like once you've dialed that enough, I guess, like if you're not on site trad climbing. But I've picked up this new hobby morning practice. I don't know what you would call it, but it's called rope flowing. And it's for a few reasons I've picked it up. It's kind of become like my morning meditation, but it's also like opens up and wakes up my body. So it's like picturing a thick skipping rope, kind of like the rope that's behind you there, but without jumping. So you're like manipulating the rope over your body and around your body without it getting tangled or anything like that. So then you're getting all this like kind of shoulder mobility work, because the rope itself is like quite weighted, especially when you're spinning it, it's like pulling you away. So then you're using your spinal engine to rotate the rope. So you're getting all this like elongation of the spine and decompression of the spine whilst doing it. But because you're like flowing, like it's like a flow art, like spinning staffs or spinning poi, if you know of that, the rope is kind of like a very similar thing. So you can just close your eyes and you're aware, there's like that proprioception level where you know where the rope is at all times. So you can just kind of, the moves are hard to learn, I guess. I don't know. I can start to get into a point now where I can like link some things, and you can just close your eyes, just move and see where the rope is. Oops, hit the mic. And sync up your breath, which I think is such a integral part of flow state, which people are either conscious or not conscious of that's actually happening when you're in flow state. Like your movements are syncing seemingly perfectly with you reaching for a hold, and there's an exhale coming. You're not just like,
it's not a struggle.
You're not going to get into flow state if you have a breathing pattern like that either. And this is really allowing me to like access flow in like a very easy, accessible, non-risky, every day. Not that I'm like getting into it every time, but it's like it does have the potential too, which is like super enticing for me.
And route climbing for flow state, I think you're right in that it's definitely really common to reach flow state in routes, because as you described, if you're in that more clutch state or fight state, which is more conducive of bouldering sometimes, depending on the boulder, it's harder to not be distracted by the difficulty of what you're climbing. But it definitely, like, you can definitely still reach flow state when you're bouldering, of course, but it is, I think, very common that we talk about flow state for rope climbing because it's a long sustained activity. And especially given that, not all sections of the rope climb are the crux, but if you're doing a boulder, like it's less moves in a lower intensity than in with a rope climb, where you might have sections of the climb which are easier terrain and you really are in that flow state.
Yeah.
I think that's one of my my most fond memories of, like, my most precious memories, I would say, of Sens are when I was in flow state.
Definitely.
And the distinct moment where you pop out of flow state is also quite joyous, because you kind of get flooded with the emotions of what has just happened. And I think clipping the chains is a very conducive pop out of flow state kind of moment. Yeah. Really, they really stay with you, those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Or in those moments, I think as well, maybe it's like a bolt or two is like Jug City to the top, and like you come out because difficulty is sort of dropped off and everything like that as well. And like you've come out of flow state, or you've come out of like that just effortlessness, and you're in that celebration Jug City, like before you even clip the chains, it's just like, oh God, I did it. Like, you kind of already got it. That's also a really nice feeling. For sure.
I think as the last few climbs that I've done have had cruxes at the top. I think I've only recently experienced popping out of flow state when I'm like pulling out rope to clip, because I'm pulling out rope like, oh my God, I've done it. Because if the crux is at the top, it's like it's not over till it's over.
That's definitely true. You have to be locked in unless you're climbing at Westlank, and then a lot of that jugs.
Jugs to the top. Yeah, the style at Westlank is definitely like, okay, the start is hard, the end is chill.
Yeah, 100%. Except Liaisons, which I haven't climbed yet, but I'm really, really psyched to try and get that climb. It seems quite hard at the top. Flow states kind of make you feel good. And there's a little quote which I'd like to know that you've had on your website as well. My favorite part of coaching is helping climbers progress and feel good about their climbing. I love giving climbers the tools to continue to improve and stay psyched to climb and train. With the feel good, I like this. How do you get athletes to become more aware of like this feel good feeling? Like a lot of them might just be elusive and they just kind of come back down, but like bringing in that feel good sensation is the ways that you kind of bring this back into the climbers.
I think people are really honest with a coach. I mean, at least in my experience, they're there to get better. They're often there as a bit of a last effort to repair their relationship with climbing. I've had a few people that I've worked with where they are feeling really quite rubbish about their relationship with climbing. And so they've sought a coach to support them through that process, or just to attempt. A lot of them describe it as it was my last attempt to love climbing still. And so, yeah, a huge goal of mine is unpacking some of these issues with them of like, what is it about climbing right now that's not making them feel good? And what is the goal that they want to work towards? And processing how to be less focused on ascend or be less focused on an outcome, but also just processing what is it that they're not enjoying about climbing. We want people to be able to be process orientated, to love climbing just for the joy of moving. But there is also a reality that is, well, if I'm working on this activity, 4 days a week, if I'm climbing 3 days a week, which is pretty common, or if I'm training 5, whatever it is, if I'm working that hard on it, I do want to feel like I'm getting better. Like, I don't know that many climbers who can climb 3 days a week, never get better, and not get frustrated at that process.
For sure. Yeah, it's so true.
So I think that we all want to feel like we're getting better in some way. Maybe there are a few of us that just like to move, but I think there's a huge portion that just want to feel like they're getting better. So as their coach, it's me trying to facilitate them to get better, to then re-engage with the process that, they can improve at this sport and enjoy that process. Now, the process isn't just about staying still. The process is improving in some way, whether that is focusing on your movement patterns, feeling stronger, being able to problem solve things better, just being able to be more brave on the wall. Getting better doesn't mean climbing harder grades. It just means improving on your skills, learning something new, evolving as a climber. So when we say that people want to feel like they want to improve, they want to feel like they're improving, it's not saying getting better in terms of grades or numbers. It can look like so many different things. And for a lot of people, it's just finding a way to enjoy the non-send days. That might be getting better for them because it's improving their mindset. It's focusing on the process. There's lots of different ways you can improve in climbing, but part of being their coach is helping to facilitate a healthy relationship with climbing.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's beautiful advice. If you've seen a lot of climbers over the course of the years, and I'm sure I'm full into this so many times, but what it would be these common mistakes that you just see almost instantaneously now and can maybe quick fix, or what are the most common mistakes that climbers make?
I think people don't focus on their technical skills enough in the sort of starting phases. And I think that's pretty classic.
One finger up.
Yeah. I think patience is really not common as well, and just wanting a quick and hard fix for whatever they're working towards. But I would say above all, it's not looking at all parts of the sport. So you want to get better at sport climbing. You want to climb hard routes, and you're telling me you need to get stronger, but you don't want to fall above the draw at all. It's kind of irrelevant how strong you are if you take at every draw. The problem isn't how strong you are. So just not looking at the whole picture, I think, is really common. They'll hyperfixate on one thing. And for each person, it might be different. I get a lot of people who I watch them climb and I'm like, you need to work on your technical skills. And they're like, no, I need to be able to do more pull-ups. We tend to hyperfixate on one thing, and where that comes from, we just sort of unpack as a team. That's what I'm there for. But not looking at the whole picture is really common, and not wanting to train elements from the whole picture is probably the second one. So maybe someone really just wants to climb. This is a really common one. They just want to climb. I don't want to train. I don't want to do anything off wall. All I want to do is climb. But I also want to constantly improve. I was like, right, okay. I must be a magician right now to get this.
1 + 1 = 1.
Yeah. So if you are, a good example is lead climbers. They don't want to boulder, which I find really funny. They're just like, excuse me, I only want to climb long routes. This is outrageous. Bouldering brings me no joy. But maybe they are working around trying to work on harder and harder routes, but they only want to rope climb 4 days a week. It's like saying to someone who's a sprinter, hey, I want you to run endurance 4 days a week, but I also want you to get faster at the 100-meter sprint. if you can't do the crux moves of climbs, you can't do harder and harder climbs. You need to work on bringing up your strength, bringing up the skills at the crux level that you're at so that you can climb harder routes. You can't just do endurance and just do laps. Lead climbers are obsessed with fitness. Boulderers are obsessed with training. You know, everyone has their niche.
Yep.
Because boulderers love to just be like, I'm just going to get stronger fingers.
Yep.
I'm like, that's not the answer to everything, guys.
The tin deck
Hangboards
is not for you. Please, boulderers, do not buy one.
Oh my God. Everyone wants to get stronger fingers. They want to see it on the tin deck.
100%.
Otherwise it doesn't count.
100%. It's such a thing. Yeah.
So I guess my answer is that we don't look at the big picture and we don't train the things that we will actually get the most gains from because they're the things that make us most uncomfortable. But
I mean, that's big there. Just kind of saying that is like, I think maybe climbers trick themselves to be like wanting challenge, but the thing that they're avoiding is the discomfort of it's maybe ego, maybe strength, but maybe it's also ego of being like just ego in themselves, not being judged by other people, but seeming weak to themselves when they are trying something else could also be such a thing to deal with. Yeah,
learning a new skill can be really scary. I also think that climbing really attracts a cohort that maybe didn't love traditional sport. So, it's really common that I'll get someone who'll say, I just don't really like any other sport, never liked going to the gym. So I found climbing. I love climbing and I just want to climb. And now you're telling me to go and do bench press, go for a run. Oh my God, climb and take cardio. But like that, you're telling me to do traditional exercise. And so I think part of it is a fear of doing exercise they don't like. So yes, you want to get better at sport climbing. Yes, you want to get better at bouldering, but you don't want to do regular weights training. You don't want to run. You don't want to do any cardio because those are the things that you didn't like about exercise in the first place. But the thing is there are some boring parts to climbing, but those boring parts will be very, very worth it because they're what gift you some of your best days spent climbing. Your best days on rock, your best days in the gym come from training effectively. I would not have had my best days on rock if I had not been in the gym, bench pressing, doing pull-ups, deadlifting, training my legs, running, doing all of those maybe seemingly boring things, but they give you the good days. And when and it comes back to that process or, knowing what you want out of climbing, when I have a goal, it's easy to go to the gym because I'm like, I'm working towards the goal. Working towards the thing. So I just go to the gym because I'm like, well, if I go to the gym now, then eventually the thing will go. I will send the thing. If I don't go to the gym, the thing will not be sent. I will fall off the thing.
And I think almost doing those mundane tasks that aren't super enticing, not as enticing as clipping a chain, it should lead to more reason to do it because I feel like not just climbing, but life itself almost lives in contrast. So like you get an injury and then once you're not injured, you can really enjoy what it's like to be not injured. Like there's so much, like when it's a rainy day and the sun comes out, it just hits your face perfectly on a 14-degree day. Like this sun means so much to me at the moment, where usually on a 20-degree day, it's just like, oh, it's nice.
And that's very true because if you think about like what makes a project super rewarding, it's not the project that you tied into 4 times.
Totally.
It's the thing you fell off 40 times.
100%.
So if you put in all that work.
You think and feel about yourself, like on that climb, you're being like, I'm not capable of doing this. Like all of these negative things that do come in, like build this pyramid of like this peak moment of your life where it's just like what you're experiencing is the contrast, is the feeling of like the negative to the positive. Like all of this payoff is like, it's so much of this conversation is about the process and why. There's so many, and you must see that so much throughout like this last time is like, so much of this is wrapped around the why. Like you really need to know.
If you have a strong why, then I've actually posted about the why before a bunch and on my social media. Like if you have a strong why, it gets you through boring things. It gets you through the training. It gets you through every time you have to do something that's not super fun. Like when I was injured, I had a picture of Taipan sitting next to my training equipment, my rehab equipment, and I would just stare at Taipan every time I did, because I had to do daily rehab for my finger, and I've been doing rehab for 10 months because I had 3 consecutive injuries in the same finger.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it was a long process.
The same finger as well.
Yeah, I had the ruptured pulley, and then because of the rupture was so bad, when the scar tissue healed, it compressed the tendon, so I had issues with pain through the tendon compression. And then because I had to keep my pinky on every time I crimped because of the pulley rupture, the one time my pinky popped when my pulley ruptured, healed, and my tendon had come good. The one time my pinky dropped, I did my FDP. And
What's
so
FDP?
it's your flexor tendon. So I couldn't climb on pockets. So it's when it goes all the way up your forearm. Yeah, so I went like back to back to back. So I had to do a ridiculous amount of rehab in the last 10 months. And I always just stared at the picture of Taipan. I was like, why am I doing this boring thing? So I can climb. So I can have those good days on rock where I feel strong. If you have a strong why, there's not much that isn't worth it, to be honest, in terms of boring exercises go. Like I'll bench press if I can climb on Taipan. I'll do lunges. I'll do pistol squats. Oh, I hate pistol squats so much. Burning passion. But I'll do them.
Crazy if you find someone who likes them.
Yeah, they're pretty gross.
Yeah.
But you have a strong why, which means that you can stay connected to why, like, you know, exactly that, why you're doing it in the first place. So you can stick to the goal and you can do some of the boring things that scare us so much. Climbing's so fun. We get wrapped up in the fact that climbing is so fun and we don't want to do anything other than climb, that we really, really like hide away from traditional training. But traditional training doesn't have to solely be off wall. It doesn't have to be boring. And it's not going to destroy your week where you don't get to climb at all. It's actually the opposite. It's going to give you a lot more capacity to climb harder and to climb more because your body can handle it. The worst thing for climbing is injuries. So people should be more scared of injuries than training programs.
Yeah, for sure. If that's not an incentivization. Is that a word?
Let's
if
hope
that's
so.
not incentivizing you to build a base and get stronger, like be fearful of an injury. But when it comes, be accepting of it as well. For sure.
Both sides of the coin.
Both sides of the coin, yeah. You got to hold these dualities in life. But I do have a dinner to get to, so we may have to wrap this up just as it is. But I'd love to leave you with some final words, but also I'm pretty sure you're incredibly booked out now, but how people can sign on with you and have you as, like, you know, the third most important person in their life. So.
Well, I'm doing a new website right now, so that should be up obviously by the time we do post this awesome chat. So if they go to my website, then there'll be all my details. So between private coaching where you can do it with like a one-on-one setting, or I do training programs, or like my technical assessments, there's like lots of different formats that you can get in touch with, which is kind of the point, so that coaching is accessible to people and that everyone can improve in their climbing and be psyched on climbing, because climbing is so heckin' flippin' cool.
Yeah, all of the words,
all of the types of cool.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, this has been a really cool chat, and I feel like we could keep on going. So maybe there'll be a case down the end. Maybe even get your husband on as well, and sit down and do a couples podcast or something like this. But yeah, I mean, I haven't finished my questions, but yeah, kind of time poor at the moment.
That's so fair. I'm so stoked that someone's doing a Australian specific climbing podcast. It's very cool. Australian climbing is a really cool scene to be a part of, and I think there's a lot of unsung heroes in the cohort that I'm really psyched to know myself, and I really think this is a really cool passion project.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been fun for me, and it's, you know, I just now in the world and following more people, I'm getting more of that news. So like, I wasn't aware that these things are happening, and hopefully this can be like a catalyst that kind of puts it into people's faces, maybe a little bit faster or whatever it is.
There are some amazing climbers in Australia. And to come through, such a different system as well. Like, you know, we have to drive 4 hours to the Grampians, like 3 hours to the Grampians, 4 hours to a Wraps. Like, it's Victorian climbers are tough. Yeah. You know, Australian climbers are tough.
Yeah. All Australians, but Victorians have it worst.
Victorians are so tough. Nothing is vaulted as bad as the Grampians.
Yeah, come at us now, guys.
We don't grid vault. We're cool with that.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a journey. It's been the process to get you on to the podcast, and I'm excited to have you on again and get through some more questions, and hopefully then I'll have listener questions and we can have some of your students come through and do some stuff there. But thank you again for welcoming me into the home and coming on the hangout. Yeah,
it was super awesome, and I'm super stoked to be here.
Amazing. Thank you.
Basically, rock climbing